So we do the best we can. The plan was to raise our own food as much as we could, and we got 2 pigs that first year, and that was a big deal when I went to get my first pigs. I took my daughter with me. She was 5 at the time, or 6, something like that, and we went to the neighbors and we got 2 feeder pigs, and we loaded them onto the pickup truck, and I was lifting the second one up, and all of a sudden I felt this horrible crushing pain in my left buttock. And I looked back, and it was the farmer's gigantic slavering coonhound, and he had about a double Whopper's worth of my butt in his mouth. And so I'm holding the pig with one hand, and I'm smashing the dog with the other, and he finally lets go. And I mean, thank goodness I had some of those insulated flannel-lined Carhartts on, and so it hurt, man, it hurt, but I was stoic about it. And we got the other pig loaded, and I wrote him the check, and we talked, and I got back home, and man, it hurt really bad, but I got the pigs unloaded and everything, and then 2 hours later, it was still really hurting. So I went into the house, and I went into the bathroom in front of the big mirror there, and I dropped my drawers, and I looked, and I went, holy shnikes! Because I had a hematoma on my butt the size of a personal pan pizza, man. And it was framed by 4 bright red fang marks at each corner. And so naturally I called my wife. I said, come here, look at this. And bring the camera. Well, you gotta document it, you know, for the grandchildren. So I went to unload the pigs, and my little daughter's with me, and we've explained to her, you know, here on the farm we're going to raise our own food, and so I let those little feeder pigs out, and they've been raised on a grate. They'd never touched the earth. The minute they touched that earth, they just put their little snouts down and started digging and flopping in the dirt like they'd been born to it. And of course they had been born to it, they just hadn't been allowed it. And so they were cute, there's no getting around it. And my daughter's watching, and she just said, oh, they're so cute. That one's Wilbur and that one's Cocklebur. And I said, oh, honey. I said, that's okay, but you just need to know that come October, we're going to butcher the pigs and they'll be our food. And she said, I know. But I didn't know if she really did know or not, if she got it. But then a couple weeks later, we had some relatives visit from the city, and they drove in the yard, and my daughter says, can I show them the pigs? Can I show them the pigs? I said, yeah, go ahead. I'll grab the slop buckets. I'll be right down. So I get the slop buckets, and I walk down. I get there just as my daughter is saying, and that one's Wilbur, and that one's Cocklebur. But in October, that one's ham, and that one's bacon. And when butchering time did eventually come, I mean, she handled it very well. We have a butcher come right to the farm, and I like that. Because you don't have to get the animals all riled up and everything. And he comes to the farm, and he butchers it. But then, so the people who are into the whole locavore thing and local food stuff, they think that's great that we have the butcher come right to the farm. Where I run afoul of them is that as soon as they're butchered and skinned and halved, I put them in my pickup truck and I drive them 35 miles to my other friend, the butcher, because he's an artist with the ham and the bacon. He's also my longtime friend. He's a guy, matter of fact, the story I opened with tonight about being down the beer tent, that was him. He's a guy we call Bob, the one-eyed beagle. He's a severely cross-eyed fellow, and sometimes when I bring that up, people act like I'm being insensitive, and it's all right, he knows. He's had a look from both angles. As a matter of fact, he's not at all embarrassed about how, and I mean that eye, it's not just a little off, it is like if his good eye is looking south, the bad one is looking due east. And he's not at all self-conscious about it. Matter of fact, he has a story he loves to tell everybody he meets about how he came to be cross-eyed. And it's completely untrue, utterly hilarious, and just slightly naughty. Certainly can't tell it tonight. All right. What he does is he'll get someone some newcomer, we love it because we see him do it all the time. Some newcomer will show up and he'll be kind of around them, like in their face a little bit, and you'll see them kind of looking at that eye and trying not to get caught looking at that eye, and then he'll just front him on it. He'll just go, I see you're looking at my eye. No. He goes, oh, no, that's all right. I know, that's okay. It's no big deal. Interesting story about how that happened. Oh, really? Yeah. When I was born without an eyelid on that eye. Really? Yeah. And so when the doctor circumcised me, they took a little bit of that extra skin. Made me an eyelid. And by this time, the person, of course, is just aghast. And then with impeccable timing, he goes, yeah, been cockeyed ever since. So people get all worried about me talking about his crossed eye, but he really doesn't care. Matter of fact, he's one of these guys, and you all know someone like this. The eye is the least of his problems. Okay? This is a guy, he's got one eye, one kidney, and 2 ex-wives, both of whom work at the only gas station in town. So he's got to run 9 miles south to Bloomer for gas, coffee, and chew every morning. But anyway, he's my friend, and he's a butcher, and he's so talented at making ham and bacon. And so once our pigs are butchered, I load them up and I drive them to him. And the butcher who comes to the farm, the first time I called him, he comes and he pulls up in his truck, and I'm across the yard, and he's one of these guys, man, the truck hadn't even stopped. The door comes open, and he's walking before he even hits the ground, and he's this skinny little feller, he's got his hat on a little bit crooked, and he's got a pistol slapping on his hip, and he comes walking, and I can't help but notice from clear across the yard, he's only got one hand. And it turns out that he lost this hand in a corn picking accident. And so he's got this little hook he uses. He's got a thumb, and that's it. And he uses this hook, and he's a whiz. He just butchers like crazy. And so occasionally, people will criticize me for breaking the local food rules by putting those pigs in that truck and hauling them to the second butcher. But I tell them, you know what? I make a living telling stories, and if you make a living telling stories, only a fool would pass up the chance to take his pigs from a one-handed butcher with 2 eyes and hand them off to a 2-handed butcher with 1 eye.